Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Saturday afternoon, the Miami Hurricanes commitment sweatshirt comes back on for what I think is a massive commitment. I mean, talk about David Blay. He was one of the more coveted defensive linemen that was available in the transfer portal. He's coming to Miami. We kind of said it that first week. It just seemed a little bit too quiet for Miami in the transfer portal. Over the last couple of days, the commitments are starting to pile up. I love this fit for Miami. And you look at David Blay, he's not going to be a guy that stuffs the stat sheet. He's probably not going to be a guy that goes for 10 sacks and 15 tackles for loss. But I'll tell you what, there's a reason every program in the country wanted this kid on their football team heading into 2025, stopping the run, doing the dirty work, eating up double teams, getting off blocks. That's what this kid does best. And quite frankly, you talk about one of the more frustrating aspects of this Miami Hurricanes defense in 2024, it was the lack of consistency. It was guys like Tyler Barron or Simeon Barrow on the inside trying to do too much, shooting gaps, getting moved off the football. Tyler Barron and Simeon Barrow might collect more stats than a guy like David Blay, but David Blay, from a down-to-down basis, provides you some big-time consistency that I think Miami was lacking in 2024. And I think that's where I want to start. I want to get into a little bit more of his game, talk about what he brings to this defensive line, talk about what this defensive line might look like for Miami in 2025. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Miami Hurricane fans, it's been a blast breaking down these commitments, talking about targets, and the amount of support y'all continue to show. A lot of support of y'all, many of y'all who've been rocking with the boys going back to the summer, talking about the recruiting trail. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into David Blay, and it starts with what he can do stopping the run. 18 run stops with an average depth of tackle of 0.5 yards down the field. What does that tell us about David Blay? Like he's not getting moved off the football. He's making his plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. That's where it starts. And then you kind of say, secondly, this kid just seems to be getting better as a football player. And although a little bit of an older prospect, he's kind of done it the right way. He went to the Division II landscape up there in Pennsylvania, and then he makes it to the G5 at Louisiana Tech, gets even better as a football player there. And now he had offers from just about every Power 4 program across the country. And then I think, secondly, kind of balances out and provides a little bit more depth to the inside of the defensive line. Look, I'm pretty confident that Justin Scott's going to be a guy for Miami in 2025. You look at Ahmad Moten, he started playing some really good football for Miami late in the 2024 season. David Blay, that true nose that can do some of the dirty work, which allows you to get a little bit creative with Justin Scott and probably ask him to be a little bit more of that difference maker that's penetrating, that's getting after the passer. We all know the trenches is something that's really important to Mario Cristobal. He's going to continue to try to get deep there, and he's going to continue to try to get really talented there. And David Blay certainly helps that out. And you start looking at that defensive line rotation. David Blay gives you what I think is that true nose that at times Miami has been missing in 2024. Then you have Justin Scott going into year two. You have Ahmad Moten, who's just getting better as a football player. Potentially a guy like Artavius Jones. It's kind of a combination of, all right, you're supplementing with the transfer portal, but you also have some young pups coming up through the high school recruiting ranks that could be real difference makers for Miami in the 2025 year. And if a guy like Akeem Mesidor comes back, he's a guy that can play out on the edge, but also can work in at the 3-tech, kind of providing a little bit more depth on that defensive line overall. This unit's looking good in 2025. Now, I think the question is Miami continuing to work in the back end. I want to talk about Charles Brantley, who is trending or sounds like he's trending to Miami. We might even get a commitment at some point this afternoon. Charles Brantley, to me, is kind of the ideal cornerback that I'd be looking for if I'm Mario Cristobal. You can play around with some young talent that you might want to bring in, but I look at Miami and say, all right, we have the young talent in the secondary, right? A guy like O'Shea Frederick, Damari Brown going into year 3. We feel decent about the potential of those guys. What I want to bring in is a cornerback who's done it. and who's done it for multiple years and who's done it at a high level. I look at Charles Brantley up there at Michigan State and say, that's what you're looking for. You look at Charles Brantley, probably had his best season of his career in 2024, which you love to see. 38 targets faced, only 14 catches given up, a 36% completion percentage when targeted. That's what you're looking for. If you polled a lot of Miami Hurricane fans and said, all right, what's the ideal couple of positions you want to see Miami address? One, it's the secondary. First and foremost, you do it first with Zachariah Poyser at the safety spot. And then you say, give me a veteran cornerback that has shown they can do it at a high level to kind of round out this Miami Hurricane secondary group. Charles Brantley, to me, would be that guy. And you land him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Miami continues to address that room. But some of your concerns from that 2024 year where that secondary really struggled, they start to melt away a little bit. And it sounds like now is the time Miami's really starting to gear it up in the transfer portal. David Blay committing. We'll see when Charles Brantley, if and when he does. It's an exciting time to be a Miami Hurricanes fan. We'll continue to break down the commitments as they come in. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.